Sometimes you need to feel the pain and sting of defeat to activate the real passion and purpose that God predestined inside of you. God says in Jeremiah, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Your very existence is wrapped up in the things you are here to fulfill. When I dare to challenge the system that would relegate us to victims and stereotypes with no clear historical backgrounds, no hopes or talents, when I questioned that method of portrayal, a different path opened up for me. When God has something for you, it doesn't matter who stands against it. God will move someone that's holding you back away from a door and put someone there who will open it for you. I don't know what your future is, but if you're willing to take the harder way, the more complicated one, the one with more failures at first than successes, the one that has ultimately proven to have more meaning, more victory, more glory, then you will not regret it.
Hello everyone, I've got a doozy for you today. Welcome back to a continuation series where I take a look at this video, Marvel Not, Satan's Endgame Secrets of the Avengers. It argues that the MCU is riddled with anti-God themes, imageries, and philosophies, all designed to convince you the viewer to hate God and Jesus and to embrace Satan. Chadwick Boseman passed away before I got to this episode in the series, so I decided to give it a little bit of time before tackling it. It's a very sensitive issue considering that the repercussions the people in this video talk about is eternal damnation and separation from God, almost implying that Chadwick is not in heaven just for being in Marvel movies. I want to focus on the points presented in this video that are focused on the movie itself. My name is Holden Hardman. I'm a Christian that will debunk the claims in this video scripturally. I will use context for the arguments made and will use some just good old common sense. If you have not seen any of the other videos in this series, make sure to check them out. Last time I took a look at Avengers Age of Ultron. I will have the source video for what I'm going to talk about in the description below, so you can watch the full thing in its entirety just for context. My patience for this will be running a little bit more thin than usual, so that might be a little bit of a treat for some of you guys. Let's go ahead and get into it.
So let's talk about Black Panther for a second. This was a massive movie. We made a documentary specifically centered around this film, and there was a lot of spiritualism in this movie.
Lord, give me strength and patience to get through this one because I'm really going to need it.
In the very beginning of the Black Panther, it's describing how he became the Black Panther.
A warrior shaman received a vision from the panther goddess Bast, a plant that granted him superhuman strength, speed, and instincts.
What's a shaman?
It's like a witch doctor type.
Witch doctor, right? He goes and talks with Bast, an ancient Egyptian cat god, who gives him a piece of fruit to give him superpowers. Now, I can think of another story where an animal told you to eat a piece of fruit to give you superpowers. What's that?
I'm sorry, I can't do it. I cannot do it, guys. I was really going to try and get through this episode, but I am so tired and worn down of all the logical fallacies, trying to find connections to things that aren't there, and this persecution complex that these Christians have. I am over it. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to quickly knock out their arguments about Black Panther. Gonna just get that out of the way. Then we're going to dissect Black Panther ourselves and begin to see how the lessons and teachings in the film actually reflect Christ, and how you should emulate characters like T'Challa. I think that that's much more respectful to Chadwick Boseman and the legacy that he left instead of continuing down this path. I got 40 minutes in, guys, but this video, this is my breaking point. Let's knock out these ridiculous claims quickly.
I can think of another story where an animal told you to eat a piece of fruit to give you superpowers. What's that?
What you're doing is something called apophenia. It is defined as unmotivated seeing of connections accompanied by a specific feeling of abnormal meaningfulness. Over-interpreting. There is no connection to the story of Genesis and the opening sequence of Black Panther. The writers and directors did not all get together in a room, rub their hands together like some sort of supervillains, and try to squeeze as many subliminal messages into this film as they could to convince people to hate God.
I can think of another story where an animal told you to eat a piece of fruit to give you superpowers. What's that?
That's a serpent. Yeah.
That's the devil. I mean, literally right here, every single Christian should have walked out of the movie right here and said, hey, that's the story of the devil. But nonetheless, a lot of people stuck around.
Christians should have gotten up and left the theater. That's interesting. Instead, Christians like these convince agnostics to get up and leave churches. Self-righteous, holier-than-thou Christians are the reason that so many agnostics that are seeking or searching for something greater, searching for God, were repelled. To those of you that might still be seeking, I just hope that you will not judge Christ based off of his followers. The presenter goes on to talk about how Bast is the king of the dead. There's a Marvel wiki that quotes Bast as calling Black Panther a king of kings, and they go on about that for a while because they're like, Jesus is the king of kings. Even though in the context of Black Panther, they're talking about how the mantle of Black Panther is passed down to the next heir, so the most recent Black Panther is literally a king above those other kings. They are not saying that the Black Panther is Jesus. You guys already claimed that Tony is Jesus, but I guess everyone gets to be Jesus now.
Yet he's the king of the dead. God is not the king of the dead. He's the king of the living. That's why they call him the living God. So this is opposite of God, right?
He's not the king of the dead. Well, now who's undermining God? For to this end Christ died and rose and lived again, that he might be the Lord of both the dead and the living.
So let's talk about when he meets his father, who's dead, and he goes through a ritual that sends him into this space where he can then go talk to the dead panthers. We have the panther sitting inside of the tree, and as he approaches the tree, the panther comes down and talks with him. I find it, once again, very interesting that we have a tree and an animal coming down to give you a piece of advice out of that tree. I'll let you sit and think on that for a little bit.
Another false comparison, apophenia. I like how the panthers are in an African tree where they would be, and these guys are like, this is insulting, please.
Leviticus 26, though, says...
Let me stop you right there. You gotta be careful when you try to condemn people by going into the book of Leviticus, because each and every person on the stage is violating something from Leviticus right now. I see tattoos, some mixed fabrics from shirts and jeans. This guy's wearing flip-flops on the stage. Okay, that one's not really a sin, but it should be.
Leviticus 26, though, says, and the soul that turneth after such that have familiar spirits, after wizards, to go a-whoring after them, I will set my face against that soul and cut him off amongst his people. Listen, witchcraft and sorcery is a very serious matter in the Bible. Yep. You do not, as a Christian, want God to tell you he's going to set his face against you.
I feel like Magneto in the first X-Men movie.
Don't give up on the marriage. I've heard these arguments before. It was a long time ago.
It's like I'm reliving my Harry Potter days. Remember when all the fundamentalists started freaking out about that? Man, what a time to be alive. They really go after Doctor Strange for this as well. He goes on a little tangent about how much God hates witchcraft and magic, but even to Christians, there are exceptions. The Chronicles of Narnia, which is a direct Christian allegory written by one of the most influential Christians of the 20th century. It heavily uses magic used by both good and evil characters, but that doesn't count. So even fundamentalist Christians can and do understand that context matters when telling fictional stories, which is what Black Panther is, a fictional story. No one is telling you to go drink something to go talk to a dead relative. It is a plot device to move the story forward. But when it comes to something new where fundamentalists don't understand it, they condemn it. It's evil, it's demonic. They point out some Bible verses from a book that they never even read to justify their opposition to it. I've done a video on this as well, and it's so frustrating because Christians should have the most creative and bountiful movies and music, but it's all formulaic, bland, and boring because they put themselves into these creative boxes. I'm tired of Christians, my people, being so scared and held back because they're afraid God will turn his face against them or will be mad at them or whatever. You are made in the image and likeness of God, the greatest creator of all. Don't let anyone stifle your creativity or your art because they think it is wrong. The Lord put that on my heart. I don't know which one of you out there in the audience needed to hear that today, but there you go. All right, sorry guys, let's keep moving.
Anyone that constantly struggled with witchcraft and sorcery, they were literally sent out of the camp, and God said, this is severe enough. Don't even have them around you. Take them outside. Put them outside of your group.
The Witch of Endor story. In most cases, put to death.
Put to death, right? That's how serious it was in the Bible.
You guys ever heard of the Salem witch trials? Would you consider that to be good Christian work? You might think I'm being sarcastic right now, but I genuinely don't know. People claiming to be Christians murdered 25 people and used those same verses from Leviticus as justification.
In the comic book for Black Panther, here's Black Panther talking with Bast. That's closer to Baphomet. I mean, literally, he's going and meeting with Baphomet.
Maybe in your opinion, and that's what this is, your opinion spun to be some grand revelation, or dare I say, some fact. It's not Baphomet, doesn't look anything like Baphomet, it looks like an Egyptian god, which it's supposed to. He talks about this specific comic book, Bast making Black Panther a king of the dead, and where he's able to have counsel with other Black Panthers from the past. They hate it, and they reiterate some points that they've already made.
And then here's the Black Panther totally talking to all of the other dead Black Panthers to give them counsel. He says, hey, listen, I call upon the name of Bast, I call upon you for counsel. We're never supposed to call upon the spirits, right?
Well, it's a good thing this is fiction, intended to be taken as fiction. He quotes Leviticus again about how you're not supposed to call upon any dead spirits. Don't do that. You're welcome. I'm doing the Lord's work.
I find it very interesting that after the Black Panther goes and speaks to that Bast-looking character, Bast tells him that there's coming days, a great fire in the sky, and you know, it's like a fire in the sky that's coming to destroy the world. Looks very much like a second coming, but from an evil perspective, right?
The good thing about claims like this, because they have no substance other than just, this is what I'm seeing, is that I can just dismiss it with the same amount of evidence. It doesn't look like the second coming of Jesus. It looks more like the Phoenix from X-Men, please. And then the presenter moves on to Doctor Strange, which is just more anti-magic stuff. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying go out and practice spells for real or try and connect with some dead relative or dead celebrity or whatever. I'm saying that this is fiction and fictional storytelling. These movies have character development, plots, conclusions, and cliffhangers. They're movies. Also, where is Captain America? Still haven't mentioned him a single time yet. I just thought that was interesting, just like how my dog can be seen in the mirror back there. What's funny to me is that there was a local church here in Pensacola that had a Marvel movie series for a little while. They would show clips from different Marvel movies on Sunday and then give like a biblical lesson talking about each one. And I actually went to that church on the Sunday that they were doing Black Panther. I've said this before in some of the other episodes, but these Christians do not represent the whole. I just, that is very important to me that you understand that. Please don't judge all of us because of very vocal, annoying ones. And that's across the board, not necessarily these people specifically, just all of them. Chadwick Boseman passing away sucks so much for several different reasons. I don't want to get into all the cultural reasons why he's so important and significant. I don't really feel like that's my place to go into all of that, but I do want to honor the guy in this series. It was just happenstance that he passed away right before I got to this episode. So let's take another look at Black Panther from a Christian lens and see what we can learn from him. When we first see T'Challa, his father is killed. He spends the duration of the Civil War movie seeking revenge. The Bible talks a lot about revenge. Here's one in particular. Beloved, never revenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. To the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink, for by doing so you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. T'Challa echoed the scripture himself when he said this.
Vengeance has consumed you. It's consuming them. I'm done letting it consume me.
Before Zemo attempted to kill himself, T'Challa says this.
Justice will come soon enough.
T'Challa openly defies his desire for quick revenge, the satisfaction of killing Zemo. T'Challa understands justice, and he has put away revenge. As Christians, people look to see if we are any different than others. We ought to be the leaders of justice, of putting aside our selfish desire for revenge. Yet it often feels we are no different. Forgiveness, true forgiveness, of horrible crimes like murder, is supernatural. In the Black Panther film, righteousness is a recurring theme, and I think a painfully undervalued characteristic that he has. In the ethereal plane, he speaks to the Panthers of the past and chastises them for their choices.
You are wrong! All of you are wrong! To turn your backs on the rest of the world! We let the fear of our discovery stop us from doing what is right.
The choices that led to Killmonger, their choices to selfishly hoard the resources from the rest of the people of Africa and the world.
He's a monster of our own making. I must take the mantle back. I must right these wrongs.
In this way, T'Challa and Killmonger are the same. They want to share their resources with the world. Killmonger wants to dominate. T'Challa wants to liberate. He understands that it is not enough to be strong, but through unity with allies, he's even stronger.
You want to see us become just like the people you hate so much. Divide and conquer the land as they did.
Now more than ever, the illusions of division threaten our very existence. We all know the truth. More connects us than separates us. But in times of crisis, the wise build bridges, while the foolish build barriers. We must find a way to look after one another as if we were one single tribe.
In this, he echoes a real-life Christian and preacher, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "We must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools." And perhaps most strongly, T'Challa understood what it means to love thy neighbor, to sacrifice for others. This is a trait the world and Christians could use more of.
I cannot just let him die, knowing we can save him.
So I do completely reject the premise and conclusion this video presents towards Black Panther. It is egregious, deceitful, biased, and flawed. It does not accurately reflect the king or the king. Rest in peace, Chadwick.